here it is. This is the Hakchi 2.15 update, which allows you to basically put Retroarch on it and run. I mean, they even have modules for PlayStation 1 and Saturn, and of course Genesis and Super Nintendo and whatever. But the big catch, of course, is there's only so much space on the Mini. It's about 300 meg, give or take. I think to avoid any problems, people are kind of saying keep it under like 280 or 270. Some people saying 250. I actually went up to like 290, and so far I'm okay. But I'm not sure anyway, because I've played it a lot, so maybe there's problems. So the reason why for this stream is I just want to go over, like, what do you do? Like, how do you set it up? Well, you do it any way you want. But for me, I decided that I don't need 700 Nintendo games. You know, the reality is I'm going to play, like, maybe 20 of them. Like, so maybe at the best 100. So the first thing I did is I Googled the top 100 NES games. And, you know, because I haven't played every game. So I think I was on like IGN's 100 or whatever, and I did a couple. I went to a couple other sites just to see if I missed anything, and I put the best 100 games. That's the first thing I did. Then I put about 80 more games based on like nostalgia for me. Like maybe there was a game that might have sucked, but I had it I'm not as a kid. I'm a little older. I had it as a young adult, and anyway, so I did that. So I wound up with about 180 or so games. And for the NES, so the way I set it up is at the root, I kept the original 30, and the biggest reason to do that is like it's for the demo mode. So if you put these original 30 in all different folders, and you know the demo mode's it won't do anything. You know, Mario will come up, he'll be looking for the game, and he'll say, "Where's the game? I don't know where it is." So the best thing I like to do is in the root just act like it's a stock. You know, with the exception of these extra folders, act like it's a stock NES Mini. This way you can this way you can what's the word? You can like leave it going, and then you'll have that cool demo mode just like you had before. And if you haven't noticed, I did change the music a little bit. I didn't want to go away from I still wanted to make the classic Mini song, but somebody did a nice little remix that's got a little bit like 16-bit, more 16-bit, has a little Sega in it. So I thought this was pretty good, like, compromise between me wanting to still hear the NES Mini song, but maybe something a little less annoying. Anyway, so I'm using the 30. So let me show you what systems I put on. Okay, so I put arcade, but I really didn't put anything in there yet except for Robotron. So you'll see there's Robotron, the reason for that is I got the 2 analog sticks on the Wii Classic controller, so Robotron actually works really good on that, and I'll probably add some more. I had added a few, but I was having some trouble with them. I think I have to get different ROMs. Some of the ROM sets don't work well in this. Atari 2600, because the games are really small, you could put all of them, but I have to be honest, I had some problems with a lot of the Atari games. So I had put a lot more on, but I took them off. These are all working. Defender 2, Demon Attack, some older ones like Dodge 'em, E.T., Enduro. For me, like, any version of Berserk is, like, Berserk's one of my, like, really my favorite game, probably, for retro games. You know, Breath of the Wild is my favorite game right now. That game is amazing. Laser Blast, I remember I finished the whole thing and I sent pictures into them. It was a lot of nostalgic stuff. I mean, I turned 50 this year, so this was really my system. But the reality is, these games are old, and they haven't, most of them haven't stood the test of time, with a few exceptions. So let's move on. So that was Atari. And the next one was obviously Genesis. Again, I don't need a million Genesis games, so you don't have room for them anyway. So Castlevania, Comic Zone, Contra, Golden Axe. There was a couple. I think there was a few other games I wanted to put on, but they weren't working right. Herzog Sway, the Mutant League games, of course, Phantasy Star, Phantasy Star 2. There's Phantasy Star 3. I don't know if I'll ever play all those. Ranger X, Shinobi, Ristar. These are most of these games I've played before. That's why they're here. Strider. I've never played Strider 2. Obviously Sonic. Sonic 2, Sonic 3. There's some other various variations of Sonic that I just didn't put on yet. I didn't want to go make this into like a Sonic folder. Urban Strike. I don't know. Vector Man, of course. So that's it. I don't got lots. I don't know what the count is here, but there's not many, obviously, because you do have limited space. So, moving on, we go from the Genesis Master System. I actually have a few more Master System games on here. They're not too big, so I was able to put a few more. They're probably equal to what the NES is as far as how many you can put on. And there's not that many of them, so I just tried to put like the best, the best 25 or 50 games that I could think of, or plus based on some Google searches as well, because I did not own a Master System. I own one now in my collection, but I haven't played it like extensively. Obviously, any version of R-Type gets put on there. And then some of the memorable ones, like they have the Rambo and their version of Sonic, which turns out isn't too bad. You definitely not. Definitely can see the technical, like the music isn't nearly as good, and a few other little things. But I thought it would be worse. I was surprised. I had never played it on the Master System. Anyway, so that's Master System, and then you go to the next one. I decided to do NeoGeo, but NeoGeo games are huge, so you gotta pick like maybe 1 to 3 of them. I mean, unless you just want to dedicate, if you can dedicate this to NeoGeo, but what's the point of having a tiny NES Mini if you don't have NES games on it? So I'll probably add a fighting game later, like a King of Fighters 2003 or something like that. I think I think I did have it on there, and then I was making room for something else. But Metal Slug, I mean, I'm just going to run Metal Slug because I want you to see like how it runs. I was surprised how good Metal Slug runs. It's probably the first thing I seen when they started using Retroarch. When they first started posting videos, somebody posted video footage of Metal Slug, and they were saying, "Oh, it's 60 FPS," and I don't think it's always 60 FPS. It stutters every so often, but not like. I mean, I was surprised that it runs at all. I mean, I would say that the NES Mini power-wise is somewhere between a Pi Zero, because I have some Pi Zero setups, and Metal Slug kind of, like NeoGeo games kind of chug a little bit, and like a Pi 2. It might not be as powerful as a Pi 2, but it's probably somewhere in between, if I had to guess. I'm speculating, of course. So, let's get this going. So this is probably the most advanced thing I'm going to run on this thing, because I'm not going to put PS1 games and Saturn games on this thing, because most of them won't even fit on it. And that's crazy. But I did see the modules, but I just did not install them. So, I actually have a PS1 that I gutted and set up with a Pi 3 and have a little Retro Pi with that. And this is crazy. But you can see, I don't think it runs perfectly. If the sound's cutting out, that's because of the sound capture. That's not what it does when you're actually playing it. As I'm not sure if it's recording it, but I hear like the sound going up and down. I think the Elgato's trying to lower the sound while I'm talking. So I'll shut up for a second. I can play this all day, but I'm going to stop. This game's so awesome. So you can go out. And of course, if you're familiar with these mods, they have the hack where you can select 2 buttons so you don't have to hit the reset. You can set to get to the home screen. There's also a turbo feature. I've been playing video games since Odyssey 1 came out in '72. I mean, I've been playing that while. And I've never used the turbo button. When they started coming out, I never understood that. So, and that's just me. I mean, people like, I was selling one of these on eBay, and people were like, "Is the turbo button feature?" I'm like, well, "Yeah, okay, whatever, sure, I'll put it on there." Anyway, so now obviously you got to put NES games on this. If you can't put NES games on this, then what's the point? So again, like I said before, I put about $1.80 on there. I think it's about 180. Let's see, maybe a little more, because I got 60. No, it might be maybe about 180. You're right, yeah, because I think there's 60 in each folder or something. I try not to go over 60 on a folder. I think when you go over 90, you start having problems. So I've been trying to keep. I set another NES Mini up where I put it was all the games, the whole set. So I put 60 a folder. So there's not a ton of folders, but there's still quite a few. But I didn't want to put one big folder. Some people have problems when they do these mods because they try to throw the games in one folder. And if you understand how this works, it basically, the NES Mini just runs, it almost resets and runs every time a folder comes up. There's only so much RAM that's in it, so you can only show so much on one screen. So when you go to a new folder, it almost clears out and then goes over. So the more games you have in a folder, the more chances you're going to have issues. This is from what I understand. I'm obviously not an expert at this, but this is the first folder. It's got, basically it's in alphabetical order. Again, I put, like I said before, I put the top, 100 or so games, and then I added about 80 more or so. And if you understand how the mod, if you ever seen the mod before, you got these folders and you go back. I'm not going to show all of them. These, obviously, these are all the NES games. And some of the obviously the better stuff. And, I mean, if you want to stay pure Nintendo, you could forget these other consoles and just put N64 and Super Nintendo, and that's it. I don't think you can do GameCube or anything at this point. So you have Super Nintendo, obviously. Again, I didn't put a ton of games because they're bigger, so I made sure I had at least one or two. I had Donkey Kong Country 3 on here, but I was trying to save space, so I took it off. But I've 1 and 2, Earthworm Jim, Final Fight, Fatal Fury, Gradius, of course Zelda. If you can only put a few, if you do a full ROM set of NES and you can only put a few other console games, I set one up where I put the whole ROM set and I put Zelda, and I guess Super Mario World from here, and I think there was maybe one other. I think Star Fox. I think Mario Kart. I put Mario Kart, Super Mario World, Zelda. I didn't put Star Fox. I put just those three because I was really tight on space. I didn't do NeoGeo at all. And I still put all the Ataris, and I put the Master System games, I think. And then I put less TurboGrafx games. So let me just N64. N64. This is what I didn't put a lot in 64, and then when I did the whole ROM set on the other NES Mini, I didn't put this. I put this Zelda and Super Mario World. When I was messing around, I had a little extra space, and I might have added Mario Kart. Obviously, because this is the best version of Mario Kart in my opinion, even the newer ones. This is such a great Mario Kart. So anyway, so you go back. So you just have to be careful game size. TurboGrafx 16. I want to add a few more TurboGrafx 16 games. There's a few more I want to really add to this, but I actually didn't have a lot of TurboGrafx 16 ROMs while I was doing this. Bonk, obviously. Devil Crush. It's really a good game for pinball game, but it's more for nostalgia. I mean, that's the game you would always see, like people talking about with this system. The few people that talked about it, Galaga 90. The reality is to get the best games for this system, you got to go look at the Japanese games, because this system has probably about 150 games in the U.S. and I think there's 700 in Japan. This system actually did really well in Japan. Didn't do well in the States. I owned it for a few days. I remember I bought it, and I think I just didn't like it. I liked Bonk, But then I was like, yeah, what else is on here? I don't know. So I took it back, and that's when I wound up getting the Genesis. This was price was cut on this. That's why I bought it over the Genesis. But I quickly realized I made a mistake. And I was into the sports video games at the time, so I wanted to play. Obviously, Madden came out. That's a whole nother story. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's my setup. I'll do a little bit of gameplay, maybe. Let's see. I have a lot of games, but I suck at all of them. I'll play some. Oh, that's the original. You guys know the original stuff, so I'll go back to. I'm going to play some Atari. Because I'm old, and Atari's easy to play. Berserk. Alright. This is a game. See, I can talk now, because this game makes, like, hardly any noise. This game's designed for, like, an Atari joystick. I mean, the NES Classic controller has these analog sticks. It's not too bad, but you have to get used to them because they're very sensitive. I do much better in this game with a joystick. I suck at this. Alright. I think Evil Otto doesn't come out unless you put the difficulty level up one. You gotta play with Evil Otto. There's a version of this game in the homebrew. I think I have the cartridge. It has the voice from the arcade, and it's actually done really well. I don't know how they did it with the Atari hardware, but it actually runs on Atari hardware, and it actually does pretty well with the voice. Chicken, fight like a robot, and coin detected. I don't think it does coin detect in the pocket, because obviously there's no coins in Atari. There we go. Let me get out of this. I'm gonna go to. Let's do Sonic. Because obviously, if you're watching this, maybe you wanted to add Sonic. Originally when I saw these other consoles, I'm like, well, that defeats the whole purpose of the NES Mini. And then I'm like, well, if I was gonna put a few games on it, obviously Sonic was one of them, and Super Mario World. Just kind of like basic games. Just depends on how much of a purist you are with setting up these games. But if you were really a purist, you would either not mod it at all, or you would do one of the older versions of Hakchi and just do or this version, but just put all the NES games on it, not add any modules. That would give you at least problems too. I mean, this, when you're doing this, you're just gonna have problems. It's that simple. Because there's just so much going on. So far, I haven't. The only problem I've had is every once in a while I'm playing, the screen blacks out for like 5 seconds, like a few seconds. The game doesn't crash. When it comes on, you're still playing. Maybe you died because the screen blacked out. But if you know where the pause button is on it, if you know how to pause it, when that happens, you just hit pause and you just wait a second. But that doesn't rarely. It happened. I think it happened actually when I'm playing Sonic, and so I haven't seen it happen on the NES games yet. I don't think it's an issue when you're playing NES games, but I think it's an issue when you're sometimes when you're playing the Retroarch games. And it could just be the way the HDMI output goes from the Retroarch to my particular television, because it could just be more of like an HDMI issue. I haven't heard anybody else complain about it, and it hasn't happened. It only happened to me a couple times, so I'm not gonna get too crazy with that. All right, so yeah, Sonic. I let the gameplay itself, because I think I suck at all these games. I love playing video games, but I'm not really great at them. Strider's pretty awesome. Go to, let's see, I already played Metal Slug, so, you know what, a lot of people are asking me about, because I don't sell a ton of NES Minis, but I had an extra one, and I wound up putting it up on eBay. It's actually still up there, and and I was asked a few questions, and a couple people had asked me about Tecmo Super Bowl 2017. I guess there's some homebrews for Tecmo. I was not unaware of this, so I had to Google it, and I actually did add it, but I'm in the wrong folder. Let me see, because people wanted to make sure it had it on there. QRST. Okay, yeah, it's going to be. You know, it might not be in the T folders. Oh, here it is. Yes, it is. So here's this is the Tecmo Super Bowl 2017. Basically, it's Tecmo Super Bowl with there's a website where they hack this game and they update the rosters every year. I think this isn't the. I think they have it like 2013, 14, 15. When I was looking, I saw all of them. So it's kind of it's pretty good, you know. There it is, 17. So you would have like all the expansion teams that happened since this game was actually released. You have you know, if you're really into this, I'm not into sports games anymore. I was really into them in the early 90s, and I guess I just every year it's the same thing, and then my ADD did not allow me to keep playing them over and over. But obviously they're much more advanced now. So you have your teams, you get the preseason. It's gonna it'll start telling you the names of the players, and you know they are current players or very recent players. Brandon McManus kicking the ball off. I don't know. I'm using the NES the classic controller, so I don't know the button layout, so I might get some of these plays wrong. Did I get it? I think I got it. Let's see. First and 10. Yeah, I got it. All right, I'm not gonna keep playing this, but you get the idea. Just a lot of good. I mean, just so many NES games. Oh, I meant to get out of there. I didn't mean to go into that. Cubert, although Cubert's pretty cool. Alright, so I think I'm going to wrap this up. Let's see. One more. Oh, by the way, this is a folder that's created like when you're adding games. You can delete it before you... I just forgot to delete it. It's basically will have any games that were added, but I already put them in the proper folders. So when you do, you add the games. You do the checklist like in the old versions, but then there's this thing that comes up that allows you to set up all, which is something I really wanted when this first came out, to set up all the folders, and that's why I can put the original 30 at the beginning. And what it does is when you add games, it just puts them all in that one folder, and then you go into that other thing and you organize them and you put them in, and it helps you out a little bit. It tries to figure out what system they're for. So it doesn't sort them though. You have to pull them out, but you can see little icons that, oh, that's Atari, that's Genesis. But it doesn't do that at the beginning, like when you're first putting the games out, when you're trying to select games, which is a little bit of a pain. Because especially when you're with the space issues, sometimes you don't know that there's another NeoGeo game, and you figure it out when you go into the other screen, and then you know. But you can delete. You don't have to go back. You can delete from the screen. I call it the organizing screen, where you organize all the games. But I'm not doing a Hakchi tutorial here. It's just there's plenty of really good Hakchi tutorials out there. It'd be really. I'm just showing my setup, which maybe that's a little different than what you've seen. But to do another Hakchi tutorial would be kind of redundant. There's just so many people that. I mean, that's how I'm not an expert at this. I just watched other people do it. And that's it. I don't really have anything else to... you can do custom music, like I said earlier, and this is definitely a custom version of the demo song. But you can put any music as long as it's under a minute. And then, so you kind of got to figure out a spot where it'll make sense. You don't want, like, I figured out a spot where this will keep playing and you don't really see the break too much. But you can, if you don't do it right, it'll sound weird because every minute there'll be a break that won't make any sense in the music. So usually you look for a low point and then you start again with like another, and hopefully if it's the same kind of hook, then you know it actually will sound pretty good. So that's it, and here's we got the systems, and I think I'm going to wrap this up. Goodbye. Let's see what I do now. I guess I close the stream.